Fudging Rolls is as old as D&D's inception, yet still to this day, it's still one of the most heated debates that you can have. So, let's talk about it. In case anybody doesn't know what Fudging Rolls is, it's not complicated. It's the simple idea that you roll a dice, you ignore what that dice roll says, and then you tell people that it was a different number. Now, while players are able to do this if they sneakily pull it off, this is usually done by the DM because their rolls are private, behind a screen, you get the idea. I wanted to present this video in the most fair, unbiased way possible, because while I've made up my own mind and method, I still understand that D&D rules are not universal. Each party plays the game a little bit differently than the next, and the more we understand that, the more we can discuss these ideas without it becoming nuclear. So, I'm going to roleplay each side here, and showcase what I think are their most valid points, then I'll go over the overall solution as to what is the proper way to play this. To argue on the side of pro-fudging, the first argument we have here is that Fudging Rolls allows the DM to alter any situation to allow for better story, combat, and scenes. One of the worst things for a party is spending a great amount of time devising an incredible plan just to have it fail due to a couple of rolls. Another great point on the DM side is that at times you want to have characters established as powerful in your world, and Fudging Rolls allows you to orchestrate the combat to reflect that. These are two valid arguments made for both the DM and the player, but I believe the most powerful one is that if the players never know the dice are fudged, then is there really any harm being done? I've met a ton of DMs that will tell me they fudge rolls but never let their players know, and at first, while I believed what they meant is they won't verbally say it, I began to understand what their main point was. It was more that your players should never think you are fudging dice. The idea is that it is a power you give yourself, but if you abuse it, then your players will start to become suspicious, and at that point you have opened Pandora's box. When done responsibly, however, it allows the DM to ensure a story and a journey that they can better control and cater towards the players without them ever knowing. To plunge D&D into the total chaos of dice rolls would have no stability in the game, and even worse, won't allow the DM to guide the players through the world that they have created. The final point I want to bring up is that Fudging Rolls is always assumed to be in negative intention. A lot of times it's, hey, they're level 3 and they just started, I don't want to critically attack my players and make them roll a brand new character so quick in the session, so I'm just going to turn this into a normal hit. There are a lot of arguments against fudging, and naturally it's because it can easily be viewed as cheating and deceiving the player. This is the first argument, is that changing the dice roll when you feel like it is cheating the game and your players, especially taking into account that the DM is also a human being, one that can be frustrated or even spiteful. And as such, they can use this power to punish rather than to mend. Due to this, it brings out the second great point, which is no consistency in the rule. The decision comes down to the DM, and this means that they are not only choosing when they do fudge rolls, but also when they don't. As such, a player might get upset if he sees a fudge roll for another player but not for themselves. This can immediately spiral into a DM versus player mentality, and anyone experienced in D&D understands how poisoning that is to a campaign. I do believe the strongest point against fudging rolls is that it disregards the main mechanic of D&D, in which everything was built off of. The story is told by the dice. You see, D&D is not a book, a movie, or a show. The story and journey is not decided by a single person or even the entire group of people playing it. The implementation of dice is used to keep the game authentic, but also have endless possibilities. When you choose to take over that mechanic, you have now put your will into the game, and as such, the possibilities become constrained. Things are only allowed to happen at your mercy, because if you don't like it, you can just fudge the roll and force what you want. The final point is that fudging rolls gives control for the DM to decide the story. In order to make player choices matter, a DM cannot have complete control over the future of their world. They need to pass that responsibility and privilege to the players. A DM is a writer up until their game starts, after which they become a storyteller. If the DM still maintains complete control over the story, then the players are really just along for the ride, here to experience whatever the DM believes is a great story and scene for their characters. An examination of both sides can provide an answer that I do believe allows a DM to create the rest of the story with the players, but still maintain D&D's main integrity. This method is absolutely respecting the dice result anytime it is rolled, but also understand that you as a DM need to decide moments where a dice roll is not called. Instead, you state what you want as this is happening. Now, look, I know at first you might be hesitant to the idea of a DM instilling something without any kinds of checks and balances, but it is way better than the alternative where you roll only to fudge it. If you come to the point where you're gonna fudge the roll, then skip rolling in the first place and just say it happens. All rolling does here is give the illusion that you're rolling for it, and it only acts to deceive the players into thinking so. This keeps the credibility and integrity of a dice roll. When you roll a dice, you're accepting that you're going to respect the result, and if you're not going to, then just make the decision without rolling. Now, this absolutely does mean that your credibility and ability as a DM will be spotlighted by these decisions, but this is how we determine what is a good DM and what is a great DM. It is inevitable that if you want to be great, you need to do something unique, and that means being more confident that you are ultimately doing right by your players. I have experienced a lot of DMs that are not confident in their decisions, and they scramble and force things to happen because they're so worried about trying to make a decision for themselves. In conclusion, fudging rolls creates a larger ripple effect than most people usually think. At first, it may seem like harmless meddling to make situations more tense and dramatic, but what we eventually do is put ourselves above the dice. When I'm a player, D&D can create an authentic feeling of a magical adventure, but the life support of that is through the use of dice rolls. Once you fudge rolls, you pull that plug and the magic is gone. I have said this over and over again, it's that the dice tell a story. The question really is, are you listening?